Are you a bootylicious beginner tumbler maker? I don't know where that came from. I wanted to say it. It sounds fun. But seriously, if you are new to making tumblers, I want to show y'all the very first step of creating a tumbler, prepping your tumbler. I get a lot of questions on how to prep my tumbler. Tumbler prep is so important. If you watch any makeup videos, they tell you you have to prep your face to have a good beat face. Just like painting your nails, just like painting a wall, a house, or a car, you have to make sure your base is nice and prepped so all of the paints, the oils, the gloss, it all sticks to that surface. That's the same thing with creating and designing tumblers. What I do is I take the care instructions, the lid, in the straw, and I place it right back in its box, and it is labeled on the bottom so you know that this box belongs to this tumbler. I put this to the side to stay organized. So the plan is to epoxy this tumbler. Before we epoxy it, we want to make this gloss surface a little bit rough so that epoxy can really adhere to the tumbler. Listen, I just got my nails done last week and I can't keep them on for more than 3 weeks to save my life because of what I do. So I try to glove up as much as possible. You don't have to wear gloves if you don't want to. I also try to reuse gloves, but I gotta keep these manicures manicured, okay? One thing to keep in mind while you're prepping your tumbler is not to touch your tumbler at all. Try not to touch it at all. To help me not touch my tumbler, I use my tumbler inserts while I prep my tumbler. Got this from Etsy. This thing is old as my mother, and I've used it so many times. You just place the insert inside the cup and make sure it is nice and snug, so if you wave around the flag, it's not going to move off. So now that it's on or in the insert, or the insert's in the cup, this is how I'm going to control the cup. I'm not going to touch the cup once it's prepped, because if you touch the cup, you're going to chance transferring oils from your hands or your gloves onto the cup, and it's going to not allow that epoxy to adhere properly to the tumbler. Now that your cup is secured, we are going to sand the cup. Cup, tumbler, same thing. Just want to throw that out there. One question I always get is, what grit sanding block or paper do I sand my tumbler with? I used to sand my tumbler with 180 grit sanding block. Now I just buy the fun pack of the sanding blocks from Amazon for like $10, and they come in like 3 different grits. I think I even have 40, and I just choose whichever one I grab first. So if you want to have a 180 grit, 80 or 60, that's fine. I never prep my tumbler with anything higher than 180. I think it's too fine. I don't know if I'm just like programmed that way. I've always done my 180 or lower. I'm sure if you sand it, or maybe there's people out there who sand it with 220. I just don't with my prepping process. I want a nice, gritty, rough surface. I'm gonna first start with the 180, and this is the one I used for 4 years. I didn't start using the lower sanding blocks until like 2 years ago when I started buying the fun packs of the sanding. So all I do is I grip my tumbler arm like this, and I just sand. Oop, and it's gonna come off the turner, or the arm. And you can see where you're sanding that tumbler. You can sand in circles, you can sand in 8s, you can even draw your name on this tumbler. As long as this is all sanding. I'm not pressing hard on this, I'm just sanding. I don't have to get here and, put my back into it. We don't need all that. All we need is a nice sand surface. I will say, the lower the sanding block, the less pressure you need. So if you are naturally applying a lot of pressure with 180, move to the 60 and just sand with the 60. That's probably why I do like the lower ones now, because I feel like I don't need too much pressure. So we're gonna sand all over the tumbler, and you wanna sand the bottom rim like this. See how I'm going around? And then you wanna sand, I always just sand in the circle, the bottom as well. You wanna make sure it is all sanded, okay? Whether you do the circles, the lines, stripies, whatever you want, just sand, 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 sand. Whenever you're finished sanding the entire tumbler, you then want to take your sanding block and you want to sand around the rim, okay? So you see how I make... Make sure your insert fits your tumbler, but we're going to make it work. So this is how I'm sanding. This is how I always do it. I press my tumbler down on the table so I don't drop my tumbler, and then I sand. Now that my tumbler is sanded, I just brush off my hands with the sander stuff, and then I always clean my surface. So I take my 91% alcohol and I wipe my surface down to make sure that's nice and clear and it doesn't have any excess sanding materials or oils on my surface. I use a makeup container that I purchased from the Dollar Tree so many years ago, but there's so many of these on Amazon as well. It's just a makeup dispenser. I believe that's what it's called. And I labeled it 91% alcohol. It is very, very important that you are using 91% alcohol for this next step. Not 71, not 70%, 91% alcohol. This is the best percentage of alcohol to remove all of the oils, all of the excess dust that was placed on your tumbler to be removed from your tumbler. If you are using 71% alcohol or anything lower than 91% alcohol, your epoxy is not going to stick or adhere to your tumbler, and it's most likely going to peel and your design is going to be ruined. What I do is I take some 91% alcohol and then I wipe my tumbler all around. How I know all of my tumbler surface is clear, I'm a mess. Whenever my napkin is completely clean. So I keep placing the alcohol on my tumbler and I keep wiping it until my napkin is clean. I use brand new paper towels and I cut them in thirds or fourths to make sure that I am placing a brand new piece of cloth on my tumbler. In the past, I've used rags that was used for car waxing, and I didn't know because I purchased them from a yard sale, and I was using them to prep my tumbler. Every single tumbler that I did and prepped with those rags were ruined. I had 2 weeks worth of tumblers, and that was when I was making custom tumblers for my customers. I had to redo 2 weeks worth of tumblers because none of my epoxy was adhering to my tumbler, and it kept peeling and it kept doing fish eyes around the tumbler. I'm going to wipe my tumbler down one more time just for good luck. And again, my cloth is completely clean. This is how it was when I first started wiping it down, and this is the end result. It looks like it's black here, but I promise it's just wet. Make sure you are wiping the rim of your tumbler with the 91% alcohol. You want to make sure that's very clean and it has no oils or sanding dust. And that's it. Your tumbler is prepped and it's ready to be designed. Place your tumbler on the cup turner or a stand and start crafting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye.